Star Fox 64 is a 3D rail shooter developed by Nintendo for the Nintendo 64. Released in 1997, Star Fox 64 was an instant classic. I was one of the millions of kids who've played it when it was first released. In fact, when I think about it, it was one of the first video games I ever played. Looking back, Star Fox 64 might even be one of my most played video games of all time. Star Fox 64 was originally planned for the SNES as Star Fox 2, a direct sequel. Star Fox 2 was fully completed by 1995, but was shelved to move development to the N64. Nintendo feared that a direct comparison between the Super FX chip-accelerated SNES game and the recent 32-bit showings of the PlayStation and Sega Saturn would not look good for Nintendo. Instead of Star Fox 2, Nintendo released Star Fox 64, or Lylat Wars in Europe, which is a cool name, sorta. Star Fox 64 is a retelling of the original Star Fox, but I spent over 20 years thinking it was a sequel to the original, since the game starts with this depressing narration to get the player up to speed. In this telling, Fox's dad, James McCloud, was the original Star Fox, and perished protecting the Lylat system from the evil Andross. James was betrayed by Pigma Dengar, and only Peppy Hare lived to tell the tale. Now Fox is the new Star Fox, and Andross is still not dead. Any way you slice it, the premise is pretty wild. We're talking about a furry universe where everyone lives in peace, except the monkey, who wants system-wide domination. And the only thing that can stop him is a mercenary team of space fighters led by a fox, whose name is Fox. This was actually the least weird thing about the game to me. I guess because the X-Files had introduced me to Fox Mulder. I was also like 8, so I accepted all this unquestionably. The game starts on Corneria, a home planet of all the furries. Like all good rail shooters, the different routes branch from there depending on how the player proceeds through this first level. For the life of me, I can't remember how I learned to unlock the hard route as a kid. But the player unlocks the hard route by saving Falco from some enemies, and then flying under each of these arches. The easy route takes players through an asteroid field, while the hard route sends you towards a space battle. The player clears stages in succession from there, with a surprising amount of variety. Almost all the stages end with a unique boss fight. You'll battle everything from a rogue robot, a solar monster, a mutated clam, an angry tugboat, and even this epilepsy-inducing machine. Several stages have sections that are all range mode, which switch up the playstyle by allowing full 3D control. When you've mastered the Immelmans and flips, these sections are really satisfying. The final all-range level, the Bolsey space station, has an odd rotational thing going on that can be a little disorienting. 2 levels present you with the opportunity to use the Landmaster, a tank that Slippy Toad has developed because despite being a toad, Slippy has thumbs and a vast knowledge of mechanics and engineering. Actually, by all appearances, Slippy is a frog, but whatever, I'm more concerned about the thumbs. Anyway, the tank levels are an entertaining diversion. One has you on a Mars-like planet where you have to rescue Slippy, and the other takes you to an enemy base. The military base level has a fun alternate ending. If the player shoots all the switches, the boss crashes into the military base, and you don't even have to fight him. There's also a submarine level along the hard route, where Fox goes solo in the Blue Marine. The mission is a total departure from the rest of the levels. While it's not the best at showing off the N64's color palette, it does present players with a claustrophobic and dark atmosphere. Along the way, you have the opportunity to meet friends from the Star Fox team's past. On Zonus, you meet a cat named Cat, who's super into Falco. She'll show up again to help the players stop missiles from hitting Great Fox in Sector Y, if you follow the difficult route. These friendly characters help flesh out the Star Fox universe. The Sector Y missile level gave me a ton of anxiety as a kid. If you fail, there's a dramatic scene of Great Fox limping away with a missing wing. I always needed to save Great Fox or it was an instant reset. Players also meet Bill Gray on Katina. Bill is a childhood dog friend of Fox's according to the narration. Same as Cat, Bill will show up and help in another level if you successfully clear Katina. The Katina level is a standout. Despite the stage's short length, Not only is it all range mode from the start, but it introduces a new challenge by having friendly fighters the player can accidentally shoot down. It also features an homage to one of my favorite movies, Independence Day. In addition to friends, Star Fox has a couple opportunities to meet foes as well. There are 3 levels where players can battle the rival Star Wolf team. First on Fortina, then on Bullseye or Venom. The player can only fight Starwolf a maximum of twice in one playthrough. Encounters with Starwolf help break up the flow of the action and present a different challenge compared to the myriad 1 or 2 shot enemies. The final level, regardless of the route you take, is Venom, which is definitely not what you name a planet where good and copacetic things go on. If you took the easy route, you fight your way through a level, a mini-boss, and then you face Andross, who is now a giant disembodied head with hands. When you shoot him in the face enough times, it turns out he's a robot. Like all good rail shooters, Star Fox 64 has multiple endings. The true ending is accomplished by completing the hard route. This time through Venom there's no level, just an immediate fight with Starwolf, and then a showdown with Andross. Phase 1 is the same as before, but after you feed him a few bombs, instead of a robot, Andross becomes this horrifying floating brain and eyes. As a kid, this really messed with me. After the player defeats that nightmare fuel, Fox's dead dad, who's maybe not dead, comes and helps you escape, while the rest of the Star Fox team chills in orbit waiting for you. It's a fitting end to Nintendo's compact on-rails adventure. It ends where it begins, all wrapped up nicely. Star Fox 64 was a success because of its core gameplay concepts and its memorable cast and setting. As a first-party Nintendo title, the extra love and marketing it received certainly didn't hurt either. While a must-play for any N64 owner, and one of my personal favorites, Star Fox 64 isn't a perfect game. The playtime is short, which for me is a plus, but for others that's not always the case. The real longevity of Star Fox 64 is the aforementioned routes. With 25 in total, you have a good deal of variety. The Nintendo Power official guide even recommends some routes, including a specific recommendation from a certain General S. Miyamoto. Graphically, Star Fox 64 accomplishes what it needs to do, but for a first-party N64 title, it doesn't do the best job at showing off what the console can do. As far as rail shooters go, the looks of 1996 Panzer Dragoon's Vi are just flat out better, on the Saturn no less, a system supposedly not built for 3D. Star Fox 64 also suffers from the same draw distance fog issues that plague many N64 titles. Since single player is a scripted on-rail shooter, the fog is hidden well, but multiplayer is a different story. The best thing that can be said about the multiplayer mode is that it exists, and it makes use of the N64's 4 controller ports. Unfortunately, multiplayer feels tacked on and suffers immensely from the N64's distinctive draw distance fog. With so many better multiplayer experiences on the console, it's not even worth trying. Finally, beyond the barrel roll memes, force feedback might be the game's biggest legacy. The pack-in edition of the N64 Rumble Pack started a revolution in gaming. Originally dismissed as a novelty, within a generation, force feedback became an industry standard. Well, those are my thoughts on Star Fox 64. If you've made it this far, then thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and check out the on-screen social handles if you feel so inclined. Have a great day!